Now, we're just going to briefly go over this concept that I've noticed out there. If you're watching lots of videos, there's an actual debate going on right now, the virology fraud debate. So I just wanted to explain what it is if you haven't heard of it yet. So for the first time in history, a world-renowned virologist, Dr. Stefan Lanka, ran a three-phase controlled experiment that proved that the way the way that the establishment is claiming to find viruses in people is a fraud. And he used the COVID virus during this experiment. And this is from one of the videos where he made his big disclosure. The final refutal of virology, the first sensational news has arrived. The control test, which Dr. Stefan Lanka commissioned in a laboratory, confirmed that the claimed cytopathic effect, which is regarded by all virologists as evidence for SARS-CoV-2, is refuted. The laboratory confirmed that this effect is not virus specific and therefore cannot and must not be claimed as evidence of a disease-causing virus. The central effect, the death of tissue cells in the test tube, is achieved in the same way without any infected material. This is the cover of this paper that he wrote on this. Again, all of this is in the notes of the show if you wanted to go look into that on your own. So is there a virus? The SARS-CoV-2 virus, that is the official reason for this pandemic, only exists in the form of an in silico computer model or computer sequence simulation. The real virus, meaning it was taken from a sick person and isolated to show that it indeed does exist, and this virus is what is causing people to get sick. It does not exist outside of a computer sequence. Freedom of Information Act requests were sent to 159 of the world's top health officials, health authorities, and agencies, virology labs, and universities, asking them to provide proof that the virus exists. None of them were able to provide proof. Even the CDC openly admits that their PCR test does not look for and cannot detect SARS-CoV-2 because they have possession of no such thing outside of a theoretical computer model. And this is from the CDC's website stating just that. So the question is the COVID virus nothing more than a theoretical computer simulation? So these doctors and others shown here have been, quote unquote, going viral, debunking the existence of a real virus. And I just wanted to put this quote here from Dr. Andrew Kaufman because I thought it was really relevant to what we're thinking about here. He says, what's most important here is that we're all being held hostage. We are having our rights taken away, and all of it is being done with the intent of pushing this experimental technology they call a vaccine upon us. We can see reports already of mutating viruses and second and third waves. As long as we embrace this false virus paradigm that viruses are particles that cause disease from the outside, we are going to be vulnerable to the next pandemic and the next one after that and the next one after that, just like all the ones that came before it that were all fake in just the same way. We have to destroy this paradigm of viruses that cause disease because this is the boogeyman and this is what is causing the fear and panic that is allowing us to be manipulated. And just a statement, like I said earlier, there is debate here. So while these doctors are talking about this, there's other doctors that are holding to their medical establishment beliefs that that viruses do exist. And there's more information on this in the reference notes of the show. But it's important to bring that out.
What's with all these people saying SARS-CoV-2 doesn't exist or viruses don't exist? I wanted to make this video to clear up some confusion and provide context on what those of us who say viruses don't exist actually mean. When you hear the statement SARS-CoV-2 doesn't exist or viruses don't exist, without this proper context, it can be super shocking and very off-putting to the point that it is oftentimes immediately dismissed. How can you possibly say that? I've seen so many pictures of it. We've all seen so many pictures of it. Thousands of scientists have studied it. What about all of those different types of viruses? If not a virus, then what is the cause? I'd like to answer some of those questions here. If you wanted to prove that one thing had an effect on another thing, What would be the logical thing to do? I think it makes sense intuitively that you would need to have that one thing completely by itself and observe an action on another thing. Let me give you an example originally used by Dr. Tom Cowan, author of The Contagion Myth. Let's say you hypothesize that a ping pong ball could slam through and destroy a brick wall. Your first action is to take a large hammer and smash the wall several times to weaken it a bit. You then take a ping pong ball, tape it to an extremely heavy brick, throw the brick at the wall, and watch the brick slam through the wall, breaking the brick wall down. Have you proven that the ping pong ball has caused destruction in that brick wall? I'd argue no, you have not proven that the ping pong ball caused destruction of that brick wall, because you did not have the ping pong ball completely by itself to demonstrate that it is able to destroy the brick wall, and you have already weakened the brick wall by smashing it with a hammer. You've added other things to the ping pong ball, and these other things are the ones having an effect. You have not proven that the ping pong ball completely by itself has an effect or is able to break down the brick wall. So how does this example relate to viruses and whether they've been proven to cause disease? In order to prove that a virus is the cause of a set of symptoms or a disease, you'd logically need to take snot from a sick person or other fluids from a sick person, extract a virus from that snot or other fluids, present it to a healthy host, a cell culture, a plant, an animal, a human, completely by itself, replicate symptoms of disease in said host, and then isolate the virus one more time to complete the circle. This has never been done before with any virus, ever. They have never proven a virus to be the cause of disease. And it just makes sense. These steps are intuitive. If you wanted to prove that something has an effect on something, you would need to have that thing completely by itself and prove or observe that it causes something. The way virologists currently, quote, prove that viruses are pathogenic disease-causing agents is the following. Virologists take snot from a sick host, which contains millions of RNA, DNA, proteins, toxins, food particles, and other material. And this snot, they say, contains the virus. They place it on a monkey kidney cell, known as a viro cell culture, alongside antibiotics like gentamicin and amphotericin, which are cytotoxic to kidney cells. All you have to do to verify this is Google impaired kidney function is a relatively common complication of amphotericin. If you Google that, you'll find that these antibiotics that they're introducing to these monkey kidney cells are actually toxic to kidney cells. They also introduce Delbecko's modified eagle medium, or DMEM, and fetal bovine serum, which are food sources for the cell. So they essentially mix a bunch of things into this cell, and then the cell experiences what is called a cytopathic effect. The cell breaks down into a bunch of fragments, and they take pictures of those fragments and call them viruses. Viruses as pathogenic disease-causing agents have never been shown to exist. Viruses as byproducts of a toxic cell culture have been shown to exist. That's the important distinction. The pictures you're seeing of a virus are based in that toxic cell culture, every single one of them. So again, the definition of virus as a pathogenic disease-causing agent has never been proven to be true. The definition of virus as a byproduct of a toxic cell culture has been shown to be true. Virologists, when challenged on this, say that these steps cannot be satisfied because a virus needs a host to replicate. If this is the case, how are viruses, according to your logic, able to travel freely through the air, make it into a person's nose, eyes, or mouth, travel all the way to the person's cell, hijack the cell's machinery, replicate and cause damage in the body, all while being non-living? That's right, viruses, according to virologists and other people in the medical industry, are non-living particles. They are not alive. The foundational scientific evidence just is not there. And the outright avoidance of conducting this proper science says a lot about the field of virology. Luckily, though, another virologist, Stefan Lanka, has conducted the proper control experiments. Stefan Lanka has done the exact same experiments with the exact same ingredients in the cell culture, except that he did not include supposedly infectious snot from a sick host. The result of these experiments were the same. The cell broke down, experienced a cytopathic effect, but there was no snot from a sick host introduced to the cell culture. Remember, this snot is supposed to be what contains the virus. This shows that the evidence virology uses to say a virus causes disease is completely pseudoscientific. The conditions of the experiment are causing the cell to break down, not the infectious material. What about all of these distinct and different viruses we've learned about? Some with RNA, some with DNA, some single strand, some double strand, different types of proteins, etc. All of these different pandemics we've had. Let me give you another analogy used by Dr. Tom Cowan. If you blew up a library and visited the rubble, you'd find a bunch of different types of paper, some in English, some in German, some with naked women, some magazines, the Bible, some children's books, the Torah. Look at all of these diverse pieces of paper. They must have been what blew up the library. Yes, these pieces of paper are specific, but they're commonly found in a library. Just because they're at the site, that does not mean they are the cause of the library blowing up. It is the same for a cell culture and all the genetic material found thereafter. Of course, you'll find distinct material, but that does not mean these proteins, RNA, DNA, and what have you are the cause of the cell breaking down. This has never been proven, not once, ever. Could viruses be the cause? Sure, they could be, but have they ever been proven to be? No. The foundational evidence and causative relationship between a virus and a set of symptoms or a disease is not there. And that's important because the officials and experts have imposed all of these measures and mandates on us, and we've flipped the entire world upside down based on pseudoscience and a presupposition of a pathogenic disease-causing virus. The evidence, and not only my exploration, and I don't claim to be an expert, and the exploration of many other people who are experts, MDs, DOs, microbiologists, and virologists, is not there. The evidence does not exist, especially to flip the whole entire world upside down. So if not a virus, then what is the cause? In my exploration and experience, disease is a unique manifestation of physical, mental, and spiritual toxins, trauma, and malnutrition and EMF exposure. Even looking at the available COVID data, it is very clear that toxic people are the ones struggling with these symptoms, not the healthy. 95% of COVID deaths had an average of 4 comorbidities, most being lifestyle or nutrition related. 78% of hospitalizations were in overweight or obese people. Healthy people are not getting sick, and this data is straight from the CDC. So what about contagion or the appearance of 2 or more people getting sick with similar symptoms when around each other? Pointing back to the Spanish flu, in every attempt to replicate symptoms of disease in a healthy host, when exposed to a sick host, the officials and experts failed to do so. I highly recommend checking out Arthur Furstenberg's book, The Invisible Rainbow, that goes into details on these experiments that failed to prove contagion. What I know is that energy is real, pheromones are real, shared exposure to similar toxins that we ingest, inject, apply, inhale, and absorb is real, shared emotional trauma is real, and bioresonance may be real. And in reality, the idea that one single thing can be the cause of a set of symptoms is, in most cases, completely flawed. We are complex, spiritual, emotional, physical, chemical, energetic beings. I think it's extremely naive to think that anything that happens in a cell culture where they've isolated a cell from a complex being could indicate something having to do with real life, and that the results could be used to dictate or alter the entire fabric of society. This reductionist thinking is what trapped the entire allopathic medical system into thinking a set of symptoms can be fixed by simply taking a pill or receiving a shot. And this is actually perpetuating disease and making us more disconnected from true healing modalities.